Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to your lecture number 16. Today we are going to thoroughly talk about the analysis essay in detail, as we have been doing with all other types of essays in the previous lectures as well, and the coming ones to go on. To begin with, we will quickly recap what we have talked about in our previous lecture. Let's quickly have a look at it. In the previous lecture, we have been thoroughly talking about that what is cause and effect essay. So the cause and effect essay usually talks about finding out the actions and reactions of something. So we have thoroughly talked about it, how you can pick up the causes of something, and then you can discuss thoroughly the effects of those very causes. Now, to begin with, we have discussed the why game thoroughly in our previous lecture, which helped us actually see that how you can, after playing or while playing this why game, you can create a good thesis statement, or you can define one good topic for your cause and effect essay. Then we discussed some of the steps for writing cause and effect essay. Those steps were discussed thoroughly as to make sure that you are going to understand that how to jot down all the information to write down one cause and effect essay. Selecting a topic for cause and effect essay is not very difficult, but yet that is not very interesting, because you are not supposed to pick a very broad category for your cause and effect essay. You are supposed to pick up a small one, and you are supposed to pick up that one on which you can write one paper on. Then we have thoroughly discussed the do's and don'ts of writing down one cause and effect essay, and then we discussed some common mistakes that can be made while writing one cause and effect essay. The example that we have discussed related to the cause and effect essay was why the effects of rejection of the job candidates during the interviews. So in the previous lecture we have thoroughly discussed that what things you are supposed to pick up, and what can be the causes of the job rejection of a candidate. So maybe if you reread that very essay, you would be able to that is going to be very, very beneficial, because the author was and the writer was talking from the very evidentiary and the factual point of view. So they can be helpful to find out what points you can keep in mind before you actually go for any interview. So to begin with, let's first of all try to see that what is an analysis essay. So to begin with, let's read out the first paragraph. Any analysis requires you to break down the subject into the components parts. So any analysis has something to do with breaking down the subject into its component parts, like this. So examining the different elements of a piece of literature is not an end in itself, but rather a process to help you better appreciate and understand the work of literature as a whole. So you break down the subject, maybe that's a drama, maybe that's a poem, maybe that's music, anything that you have picked up, you break that down into different parts, and you analyze each of its component separately to find out your own conclusions. Now there are a few examples that you can see while we practically implement this analysis essay. The first one is the analysis of a poem. The example that is being, or this is the target that through which we can understand that how to write one analysis essay, is a poem, which might deal with the different types of images in the poem. Now, a poem is not something that is going to tell you only one basic idea. There are different collection of words, different thoughts, different images, different symbols being used in your poem. So you are going to pick up the images in the poem, or with the relationship between the form and the content. So any technique or any breakdown information that you want to stick to your essay to make it an analysis essay is from which point of view you are going to analyze it. Now that you have picked up one topic, that is poem, you are going to see that either you are going to work on finding out the images in the poem, or you are going to find out the relationships between the form and content. So this is how you break down the subject into different component parts. To maybe in one essay you can talk about different parts, or maybe in one essay you talk about only one chunk. So this is how and analysis essay, the major subject is being divided into the different parts. So the second thing or the second example is of a play. If you were to analyze a play, you might analyze the relationship between the subplot and the main plot. Let's say this is another category of, or this is another component that can be selected for analyzing one particular play. Or you might analyze the character flaw of a target hero by tracing how it is revealed through the acts of the play. So maybe a plot versus the subplot, maybe the hero versus the heroine, or something like that can be picked up as a component or as a subtopic of your particular subject which needs analysis of. So you do not analyze a play as a whole, you do not analyze a poem as a whole, you analyze the component parts and you analyze the subparts or the subcategories of it. So there are some purposes of writing analysis essay. The purpose of literary analysis essay is to carefully examine, and sometimes so you try to carefully examine, or you try to carefully see that what is inside. It has again something to do with the evaluation essay, or it has something to do with the dissection of something. Now that you are dissecting maybe a frog, so what you would do is that you would cut it from the middle, and then you would try to examine it, and then you would try to analyze it, that how this frog is different from other frogs. Now this analysis doesn't have to do with the dissection of the whole frog. You have to analyze different parts. Maybe you are analyzing between a frog and a human being, that how this frog's dissective or the digestive system is related to, or is matchable with that of the human being. So this is what you can and only in this possible way you can do the careful examination of that frog. Now evaluate a work of literature. Now purposes of writing analysis essay, that analysis essays are being usually written to analyze or evaluate a work of literature or the aspect of a work of literature. Now a work of literature can be analyzed as a whole, keeping in mind the different components, or maybe the only one component is being picked up of the work of literature to be analyzed itself. So these are the ways and these are the techniques which can be used, or basically the purpose of writing down or an analysis essay is to find out the or do the careful examination of something. Now the next question, or the next title of our today's lecture focuses on that how to write an analysis essay. Now analysis essay assumes that you break a larger subject into subcategories and then examine each of them to form an opinion about the whole. Now you have one major subject, that is your topic, that is being broken down into different categories. Each one of those categories will be analyzed or would be examined differently, and then your opinion will come out as a whole based on all the analysis being drawn on those different categories, those subcategories that you have selected for writing down one good analysis essay. After you have taken a problem apart, you must describe each of its components. Now that you have taken or you have selected one topic or subject for your analysis essay, what you do is you try to see that what components, or you try to break it down into the different parts. Now that you have one huge cake, that is a lemon cake, you cut it down into different pieces to see that where which piece is different from the other piece, right? So you try to analyze maybe in terms of size, maybe in terms of shape, maybe in terms of their look. So this is how you have selected different subcategories of the major topic to see that how to analyze each one of them, to overall see that how that cake was like and how did that cake tasted. So this is how your major thesis is one. That is your whole. However, your subcategories can be analyzed differently in different ways which are related to your main topic, that is your topic statement. Explain how they are interrelated and come up with your own conclusions. Now you are going to tell that how are all the subcategories or the subtopics of your one topic related to each other, and how you can draw your own conclusions, which is based on your opinion of describing your cake as a whole. So this is how you describe your analysis essay. And to see that clearly, let's see that how these larger subjects of the subjects that you have selected are being divided into the subcategories, and these subcategories are examined differently into the different parts like this. So these subcategories are different, and this is your category number 1, this is your category number 2, this is your category number 3, 4 and 5. So this is how each one of the category is being examined in different ways and differently, as to relate all of them to form your opinion as a whole that was related to the larger subjects which you have talked or which you have picked up for the analysis. So this is how by understanding this graph you can understand that how larger subject, a broad one, can be taken and can be divided into different subcategories, as I have done so on this very page for you to understand that how you can do one. Then you try to examine each one of them and try to see that how do they differ and how are they similar in terms of like for example, I have given you the example of a cake. So how are all the pieces different from one another, and how are they similar to each other, and in shape, in terms of size, in terms of taste, in terms of everything that can be counted towards evaluating or in terms of analyzing or examining anything that is in front of you. Then your opinion that is based on developing the examination of each subcategory will be analyzed as a whole, and your opinion will come as a whole that would be related to the larger subject or the broad category that you have selected for your analysis essay. Now, as we discussed the steps for writing essays in every kind of essay that we select to write down, we have some steps to be followed while writing one analysis essay. The first step that you are supposed to make and take is to narrow down the subject that we have done previously. Like you have selected the broader term maybe to a topic that is suitable for further analysis. Don't try to analyze a wide range of issues into your analysis essay. Now there can be one broad topic but there cannot be broad topics that you can analyze and differently in one essay. Now there is one broad subject that you have taken, and then you are going to narrow it down into the subcategories, as we have also discussed in our previous slide. Then you do the examination of each and every subcategory differently, as to see that how are they related and how they are going to produce that opinion for that very whole which was your major subject. So your second point would be, once you have narrowed down your subject, develop your own points of view on the chosen topic. Now that you have selected one topic for your analysis, you would draw your personal point of view on the chosen topic. An analysis essay must declare its author's opinions. You will also have to document how you came up with the conclusions. So this is how you can see that while analyzing your major topic into the subcategories, and while examining each subcategory, you would see that how you come up with one opinion related to all of them as a whole. So this as a whole word has something to do with defining each and everything in one line. Now moving on to our step number 3, which has something to do with collecting the material relevant to your topic. Now you cannot draw any conclusion, or you cannot draw any opinion, and you cannot draw any examination of anything based on just your opinions. You have to consult different relevant material that is related to your topic and see that how well you can examine it. You can use available resources if someone has already written something about the topic, or do your own research. Now for doing your own research, you are supposed to make sure that you are going to find the factual information that is based on reality. you are supposed to find out the quantitative data if you are not looking for the qualitative data. Now this qualitative data is has something to do with finding out the the previous works that have been done, or the previous literature that has been produced related to the topic that you have selected for your analysis essay. However, your quantitative analysis or your personal research work that you want to do has something to do with providing the factual information, in terms of providing the statistics, in terms of providing the evidences and reports which you have gathered and which you have conducted while searching for the topic that you wanted to write down. Now find additional information, conduct experiments or make comparisons. So this technique of experimental survey, or let's say this quantitative survey, will help you find out the exact information that you want to find out between the different subcategories of your major topic. Then analyze the material, noting the points that support your argument together with those that do not. Now once you have drafted down the questions, some of the questions being written in your statistical data, you would see that which questions agree with your point of view and which questions do not agree with your point of view, and you are going to draw your argument together with those that do not and that do. Now your fourth number step would be that you are going to start writing your essay. Now how do you do that? You start writing your essay by writing down the introduction. Now this introduction, in this introduction you are supposed to write that briefly by announcing what you are going to analyze. So briefly announce that what you are going to analyze means what is the topic of your concentration, or what is the topic of your examination that you are going to work on throughout your essay. You can start from a broad statement that is relevant to your theme and then narrow it down to a specific topic. Now in your introduction paragraph, you would clearly mention, as I have told you in the previous slides as well, that you are supposed to pick up one category that is broad. Now that broad category can be something which has something to do with explaining those facts which are related to that, and then dividing that very major topic into different subcategories by seeing that how you would analyze and examine each and every category and make your opinion on them based on the your personal research that you have done, maybe in the form of a statistics, or maybe in the form of a review, or maybe in the form of quantitative data that you are providing for it, or sometimes you provide or you support your argument with by giving the solid information of the work that has been already done and the material that have been already produced by different people. Then once you have stated down the broad statement of introducing your topic, you are going to clearly tell that how to which point you are going to narrow it down. Maybe you are targeting towards only one subcategory, or you are targeting towards 2 or 3, and then you are going to explain it to your audience that what exactly your essay will focus on. Basically your introduction paragraph has something to introduce to the reader that what exactly you will be talking about in throughout your essay. So this is how you write down your step number 4. Now your step number 5 would be that you would write your main body paragraphs. Now in your main body text, state your ideas and support them with examples. Now related to each subcategory, state your ideas, that how would you or how do you examine them, and then support your points with the help of examples, facts and quotes taken from the reliable sources. And if you don't find any material related to your topic, you can work on it on your own. Your step number 6 would be writing down the conclusion. You would once you are done with your main body parts and explaining all the subcategories that you have selected, or maybe you have selected on only one category related to your topic, you are supposed to provide the evidences, and you are supposed to support that with the help of quotes and different references, the different facts. In the end, you would summarize what you have written in the conclusion and restate your main points. So whatsoever you wanted to work on in your thesis statement that was introduced in your first introduction paragraph, you are supposed to do that in the conclusion paragraph again by stating your personal opinion. Now that you are done with all the topics for all the steps and you have followed all the steps for writing down one analysis essay, let's come up to the topic selection that you are supposed to, or that can be give you help while selecting or while writing down one analysis essay. Writing an analysis essay is a good way to comprehend difficult topics that have many dimensions. Almost any subject may be broken into subcategories with the following examination of each of them. Still, one of the main factors of writing a good analysis is your enthusiasm about the topic. Any topic can be taken, as this point number 2 clearly states that any topic can be taken for analysis or for writing down the analysis essay. However, you are supposed to keep in mind that for once you are going to start writing, once you divide any subject into subcategories, do not lose your enthusiasm towards that topic, because once you are motivated and once you are enthusiastic about writing any subject or any topic, your essay will end very quickly, and it will come up with the very good results. So if it's not pre-assigned to you by your instructor, then you better write about something that is the subject of your interest. So if you are not being imposed by any instructor like me, so make sure that you choose that kind of a topic that interests you, because the things that interest you, you can write them on them very better. Now, the possible topics for analysis essays are listed below. The first one is the economic crisis and the rate of unemployment that can be discussed, or that can be analyzed, and that can be examined carefully in an analysis essay. Then the second topic is foreign policy in a globalized world. That one is can also be analyzed in a very great way in any analysis essay by dividing the major topic foreign policy into different subcategories. The metaphor of transformation in F. Khawa novel The Metamorphosis. This is how the metaphor of transformation will be analyzed from the novel The Metamorphosis. The reasons of Mitt Romney's defeat in US presidential election 2012, that will be of course will be based on the factual information and the evidences which you find out from for the defeat of Mitt Romney. The motives of suicide committed by Anna Karina. The meaning of surrealistic images in Dali's painting. So some of these are the topics, the list of topics that you can use for the selection of for writing down in your analysis essay. Now let's talk about some of the key points to be considered while writing one good analysis essay. Now the first point that you can see and you can visit while writing one good analysis essay is that your assessment of material may change in a process of writing your analysis essay. So you are not going to get worried about that, why your assessment of the material is changing, because you are analyzing that. You are trying to work on that, so you are not going to worry about that. Your analysis is going to come out solid, because you are working and you are actually trying to find out it or examine it through reasons. So there is nothing to worry about. Your assessment of the material may change as you progress towards the conclusion of your essay. Now, second point, or the second key point to be considered, is that analysis essay should be written on a topic that has several controversial opinions. Now, that should not be a monotonous one, or that should not be a flat one, or that should not be the one that is immovable. Your topic of analysis essay should be controversial. In other words, it has got different opinions coming from the different kinds of peoples. Those topics which have been discussed again and again in the past, or it says don't write about issues that everyone already knows about, is not going to appeal to the logic of your reader, because everyone knows about common things. So you are going to make sure that you are going to pick up those topics which have got some controversy in them, so that you can analyze them better. Now, another thing that you are supposed to keep in mind is that analysis essay often use how to. Now, this how to of the analysis essay sometimes being used talks about the comparison and contrast, or sometimes it's also talks about the cause and effect, because you are trying to analyze it. If you are know the cause and effect both at the same time, you can analyze it better, that what were the possible reasons of the cause behind that very effect. Or if you are trying to find out the comparison and contrast, trying to find out the similarities and differences, you can analyze it better. A good way to formulate your essay is by asking a question. For example, what do I want to prove or deny with my essay? So this questioning or asking yourself a question, that what exactly you want to achieve, or what do you exactly want to prove or deny with your essay, is very important, because only in this possible way you can write one good essay. A good place to use a quotation is at the beginning or end of the paragraph. So once you are going to write down this quotation thing in your essay, make sure that you are going to insert that either in the beginning of the paragraph or at the end. The best idea how you can start your analysis essay is to start it with a quote which is exactly or which is telling about that what exactly you are trying to tell in your complete essay. So in your introduction paragraph, maybe in the beginning, or maybe in the closing sentence, maybe in your topic sentence, or maybe in your closing sentence, you can thoroughly talk about that how through introducing one quotation, that what exactly you want to talk about in your analysis essay, or what does your analysis essay targets towards. Now that we are done with the key points to be considered while writing one good analysis essay, let's try to see that which things you are supposed to do while picking up a topic to write an analysis essay on. Now, the first thing that you are supposed to remember is to avoid using the second person pronoun, that is you. So you should avoid this you, as maybe you can say that as most of you feel, as most of you will find the similarities, and this mention of you is not very much appreciated in analysis essay. The first person pronoun I should also be avoided, except in those cases when you need to support your argument with personal experience. So unless that you are going to provide this personal experience, avoid this I thoroughly in your analysis essay. Do use transitions between paragraphs, such words as furthermore, thus, thereby, accordingly. These kind of words are going to connect your thoughts together, connect your subcategories together, and then try to examine each subcategory, and then try to completely see your subject as a whole. This will make your arguments flow more fluently. So you will come out with your one basic solid analysis fluently while you try to use these transition words between different paragraphs. Clear? So should we move on to the next slide? Another do that you are supposed to do while writing your analysis essay is try to analyze your topic from different points of views. Now this is not something that you are going to think that how do you feel and what is your personal opinion about, what is your personal experience of writing about any or finding out any analysis. Think from different point of views that what people can think about this very topic. Only in this possible way you can write the good examination or the good analysis of something. This will make your analysis more objective and complete rather than being subjective, because if you are going to involve the thoughts being offered by the other people, maybe you can, prior to actually start writing on your topic, you can discuss your topic with your friends, with your peers, with your teachers, with your instructors, as to see that how others have to think about this topic, and you can include those opinions of theirs in your topic as to make it more objective and complete. So besides, you can find new sources of information and strengthen your argument. So you can also find out new sources or the new references, new quotations, and new statistical analysis, which can be of a great help to write down your one good analysis essay. Another thing to be kept in mind is do cite the work of others properly, because if you are not going to cite their work, provide the proper citations for others' work properly, there may come an issue of plagiarism, and I know that you don't want to get yourself into the trouble of this plagiarism thing. Do try to sort your arguments from the most significant to the least. Now your arguments should start or begin like 1, 2 and then 3. So try to make sure that you are not going to number it even. You are the main purpose is that you are not going to number it, but the numbers are there on your pre-writing paper, which is going to help you put the most significant thoughts in the beginning, and then the less significant ones later. So this is going to provide the good chronology for your subcategories in your analysis essay. Now, as I said that you are going to properly quote the references that you are, the quotations that you are, or the citations in your analysis essay. So don't ever plagiarize. This plagiarism thing is going to really put you in the trouble, because whatever you are quoting from the other sources, those people they can sue you in the court. Use the thoughts and arguments of other authors only to support or illustrate yours, but never introduce them as your own. So don't say that the big statement, as we were discussing in our previous lecture, that every action has a reaction, has been said by you. That was said by Einstein. So you cannot say that I said or in my opinion every action has a reaction. So you are not going to do that. If you are going to properly quote any reference, do that in the inverted commas, as we have already talked about the MLA style in detail. That is the Harvard system. You are going to stick to that carefully as to make sure that all quotations are properly cited in your essay. Don't use slang and informal language. So your language choice, your choice of words should be highly grammatical. They should follow the standard English format, and you are not going to insert in any slangs or any informal language that you feel like inserting, and this is not a very good practice to do. So avoid that and stick to the standard language, where you are not going to break the rules of writing down the language in your essay. Remember all the rules of essay writing. Do not use or don't try to put the informal language in your essay. That can make your essay look like informal. Your essays are usually formal kind of essays, where you have this margin of inserting and quoting different references and providing the evidences. Only other than the narrative essay, which has something to do with your personal experiences, all the kinds of other essays need to be properly cited, properly referred, and properly quoted. So all of the other essay types are highly formal. So you are supposed to see the complexity of thought that you are providing. So stick to all the rules of writing down one good formal essay. Now, don't write useless sentences just to make your essay longer. Now, as you see that all the presentations are, all the lectures are basically not longer than your thoughts. You should try to do that in your personal writing essays as well. As we have seen in the previous examples of the types of essays that we have done so far, none of the essay was, once we were reading, none of the essay was more than 10 minutes. So the thoughts being conveyed by every writer in the different types of essays, in the different examples that we have done in our previous classes, were not more than what they were required to. Let every sentence serve the purpose of supporting and providing an idea. So every sentence of yours is going to support your major idea and your basic idea. Basically, you should not have to worry about that you are not going to repeat things, or you are not going to repeat things again and again in your essay, as to think that the author, the reader of your essay is going to miss out any point. The reader, if your introduction is strong enough, the reader will automatically be involved in it, and they are going to get convinced with what you have to say, and then they are going to read your essay with full devotion and full enthusiasm, because they are interested to read your essay. So make sure that you write your introductions in the best possible way you can, as to introduce the reader that what exactly you want to talk about in your essay. Don't include new arguments in your conclusion. So your conclusion basically has something to do with the summing up of your whole idea. You are not going to insert any new arguments in your essay. So in other words, conclusion is the summing up of all the details, all the evidences, all the facts that you have discussed in your main body. So you are not going to insert one new argument in your conclusion, because that can lead, or that can divert the attention of the reader towards the next, towards another thought, or they leave their thought open-ended, or they do not draw any conclusion that was related to your essay in the conclusion. Don't hesitate to proofread your analysis essay when it's written. So this proofreading things is really very important for every kind of essay that we write. So once you are done with your essay, proofread it well to see that how successful you were in analyzing or in examining your topic or your subcategories. So the first common mistake a writer can make while writing one analysis essay is that a simple summary of material being analyzed. So see the first one, a simple summary of the material being analyzed. In other words, remember that you have written, once you write an analysis essay, it is not enough to structure the material and give a brief précis. You must investigate your topic. Now this is not the good idea if you provide the summary of the subtopics that you have selected for analysis. You are supposed to divide your major topic into the subcategories and then analyze and examine each and every subcategory to give your opinion on them as a whole. So this is what your target is. In other words, you are not going to simply summarize what you have written. You are supposed to give your personal opinion and give your personal examination on each and every subcategory as you divide them into the subsections and try to see that how you are going to analyze them, and then draw your personal opinion on them as a whole. So this is the right way of doing it. Do not mingle two things like writing down the summary or the précis of something, or writing down the examination that is personally or that is totally going to talk about your experiences and your thoughts. Now sometimes you insert in the improper quotations, which is not a very good practice. Remember that you are going to follow this MLA style thoroughly in while you are providing the quotations or citations or references in your essay, because if you are not going to properly quote these references, you might be it would look like plagiarism, and you might be trapped into a case of plagiarism. So make sure that you have formatted all citations properly in your essay. By the end of your essay, you attach the reference page at by the end of your essay, or at the end of your essay, to make sure that all the references are being properly cited. I have also told you that how to write down one quotation inside your paragraph, that is with the last name of the author, with the year in which he has said, along with the page number. So this is the right way of doing it. And if you are if you are using the Harvard style, you only write down the last name of the author with the page number from the reference from where you have taken the quotation or source from. Now give multiple arguments without any logical structure. If you do not arrange your arguments in order form, your paper, your essay will look disorganized and chaotic. You don't want to do that. Give multiple arguments without giving multiple arguments without a logical structure. So your structure is going to count a lot once you want to work on or producing one good analysis essay. So try to make sure that whatsoever you have written is written in a good logical way that is being set for your analysis essay. Now the next point says that building your essay on just one or two arguments is not enough. No matter how strong your argument is, if it is the only one that you would build your essay on, your paper would look weak. So to make sure that your paper looks strong and is being supported by different arguments and from different point of views, you must insert in more than three arguments. Those are the very strong ones to support your basic thesis statement. Now sometimes confusing analysis and expository essays, types of essays, is also one common problem. You mix both of them. Why? Because both of them, they talk about the same thing, but they talk about the same thing in different way. Let's see. Remember, then expository essay reports information. It reports information. Simply speaking, it answers the question that what is it. So it reports about any argument or any information that is the target of analysis, or how do you expose that thing. On the other hand, the analysis essay examines the implication of reported information. So as in the expository essay you have only reported the information, in the analysis essay you try to see the implications of that reported information by answering the question that how did it happen and why did it happen. So what happened, that was reported information, and how did it happen and why did it happen are the implications of the reported information being offered or being exposed in your expository essay. So two of them, they are different things, so you are not going to mix them up. Try to see that you particularly find out the reported information in your expository essay, and try to see the implications of the reported information in your analysis essay. Now let's try to see that how to analyze an essay, and then we are going to visit a good example through which we can see that how one analysis can be done of any good essay that you want to write. Essays are generally short pieces of prose, not always that revolve around an already formulated thought. So essays are short pieces of prose which are not always which do not always revolve around any already formulated thought or any previous idea that have been already proposed. Essays are written analysis by established writers and critics. So these are the examination of the analysis essay. Basically is an examination of of any writer or any critic who is drawing their personal opinion by consulting or by reviewing different articles or sources, or by visiting different websites, by visiting different books and quoting down the references from those sources. Now, when you begin to analyze an essay, follow these steps in order to avoid confusion. The first thing that you are supposed to remember is to read over the essay several times. Now, if you want to analyze anything, or if you want to, now that we are in a process of analyzing an essay, that's a good example of how you can analyze something. You are supposed to read that essay several times, as to see or to break that down into the different subcategories that from which aspects and from which angles you exactly want to analyze that from. Discuss the essay with the teacher or a peer. If you are yourself not able to find out that what to analyze, you can even discuss your essay with your peer. This is also going to help you see that what questions the next person, your peer, your teacher can have in their mind, and you can also take them as your hypothesis or your subcategory to be analyzed. Then tear apart the essay structure. You are going to visit, or you are going to read one essay thoroughly at time and again and again, and then you are going to tear apart the essay structure into different parts to see that how it is structured. That will become your category number 1. Then you are going to see that how is it affected. This will become your category number 2. And how does the writer convey his or her message. That would become your category number 3. Or these are your subcategories to be examined. So you are going to do this examination of all these categories one by one as to find out how this essay was structured. So this is how you are going to select for that how you can actually examine or analyze one essay. Now your fourth step would be that research the structure. So if the writer was successful, or if the writer was not successful, you are going to research the structure by trying to find out the different essay structures and try to see that if the writer was successful to write the clear structure. Write an outline. Now you would write down your outline for writing down your personal analysis of any essay that you have picked for examination, and then finally write down your paper, which will clearly would be your analysis essay. So your analysis essay is right to go. You are going to start working on your analysis essay. In the next slide we will see one good example of analysis essay, that how essays provide analysis of something. So if you visit or if you read that example carefully, you can see and you can visit, or you can make one good analysis essay. Now example of analysis essay is replacing school textbook with the laptops. Now the topic is really very interesting, the one that we are going to work on, replacing school textbooks with laptops. If it happens, then life would be very easy for everyone. Now let's see that how how this writer has seen this topic and how he has analyzed it. To begin with, let's start reading our introduction paragraph. Analysis essay, as I have said and mentioned earlier as well, has something to do with drawing the good and bad qualities. It has something to do with the examination of something. Now the topic of today's essay is that replacing school textbook with laptops, which is a very controversial one. As we have said that you are going to select one topic for your analysis essay which is controversial and which has not already being debated on. So now let's see that how the writer explains and analyzes that the school textbooks should be replaced by the laptops. Let's read out our paragraph number 1. Nowadays, the question of replacing students' textbook with individual laptops or other similar gadgets has become more and more popular. Still, this is connected to various problems and customs to be considered, and some scientists believe that technological advancements make such issues inevitable. Now, that was said by Conch in 2006. As life becomes, now see, this quotation has been properly cited. If this reference was taken as the personal opinion of the author, then that was not a good practice. As life becomes faster and more complicated, people seek ways to apply every little piece of technology to make it easier and more comfortable. According to Nejme, now see, the writer is trying to see the proper references and the proper quotes being said by other people as to avoid that issue of plagiarism, because if you are not going to do that, people won't be really impressed by you, and that is not a very good practice. It's kind of a stealing something, or I hope that you don't want to become a thief. Then coming back to your introduction paragraph, here we were talking about, according to Nejme, the acquisition of knowledge needs to be in the tandem with current technological trends. One of the spheres having the rifest debates about implementing technology is education. Among several radicals, proposals concerning these questions was a blanket ban on textbooks in favor of laptops, which resulted in controversy reaching its peak. Now, the writer very well tells in his personal in the introduction that this topic itself became a controversy when the textbook, when there was a question that the textbooks should be replaced by the modern technologies or the other similar the laptops or the other similar gadgets that are available. The paper analyzes this problem in order to come up with the certain opinion about the topic. Now see, there is no personal mention of I, or there is no subjective opinion in that. The writer is going very objectively, and he says clearly that this paper analyzes this problem in order to come up with a certain opinion about the topic. Now he would also provide us with the opinion that either the laptops should be replaced with the textbooks should be replaced with the laptops or not. Now let's read out our supporting details number 1, our first paragraph. The general cost of buying a laptop and maintaining it is higher as compared to school textbooks. The digital text combination inherent in laptops is still a relatively new and expensive technology. Someday in the future, its cost might lower significantly, but now not every student can afford to have a laptop. Presently, the most affordable way to gradually slash costs in creating series of textbooks by publishers to be used in schools. This could also eliminate the need of paper and lower printing expenses. Besides, this would be a boon to environmental preservation. So in the first paragraph, in his supporting details, the writer clearly talks about the cost. He is basically analyzing the cost of the laptop versus books. He says that he says clearly that how laptops are more expensive than the books, and how they cannot be afforded by each and every child studying in the school. So he says that they can become affordable if the affordable way of doing is that how to create the series of the textbooks by publishers to use it in the schools, as you can very well read it in this line. Now he, in the end, in the last line, he says, that is the closing sentence of this paragraph, that this could also eliminate the need of paper and lower the printing expenses. Besides, it is going to be the boon for the environmental preservation. So he also believes that if we use laptops instead of the textbooks, that is going to be very useful, because that is going to reduce the paper expenses, the printing expensive. It is also going to reduce the need of paper, and that is also going to help us boon down to the environmental preservation. So the cost maybe can be expensive, but the writer analyzes it in such a beautiful way that he comes up with the conclusion, and he provides us with the solution that what could be the benefits of if we ban books and we introduce laptops in the schools for the children. The other important problem linked to the usage of laptops at school instead of textbook is that reading long expanses of text on a screen can be harmful to students' health. Now, these text on the screen can damage the eyes of the students, like these eyes issues. Maybe if they are supposed to look at the screen for a longer period of time, they can damage their health also. Bright light and digital text affects the eyes in a negative way, making students unable to study for extended periods. Students can read from textbooks easily, like they can sometimes put them aside and then they can pick them up to read from them, but students have to pay their concentration on the laptops for a longer period of time, and they can harm their eyes. This disrupts study sessions in the school, leading to inadequacies in lessons and private studies. So students, the writer is of an opinion that he is introducing another problem with the laptops in the school instead of textbook, which can harm the health and the eyes of the young kids, which is inadequate in lessons and the private studies, which is not practical. Besides, laptop possess a serious drawback. They cannot be used for a long period of time because they consume rather a lot of energy, so that batteries discharge in the couple of hours. So he comes up with another solid reason that laptops possess a serious drawback, that is of the consuming a lot of energy. Thus, the students often depend on sockets. On the other hand, laptops increases students' interactivity, as they are considered more interesting in learning than textbooks. Besides, according to Najmi, the reflection of the bright light from the textbook under bright overhead lights can cause eye strain. So in the second paragraph, in his second supporting details, the writer comes up with the all those drawbacks related to usage of laptops in the school, clearly by telling that how they can consume a lot of energy and how they cannot be very good for the health of young kids. Now, in the third paragraph, again, he comes up with another analysis. There is also one more factor that needs to be considered. Of course, in the modern world, students living in the developed countries are familiar with the latest technologies, and using computers has already become a part of their lives, and this helps them when they join the job market. The easy availability of internet also makes the use of computers seemingly more interesting. Now, see, he is again discussing another more factor, which he feels that if students are exposed to the laptops or the modern technology in their classrooms at school, they would be, it would be very helpful for you. And once the internet is also available along with laptop, it would also become more interesting for the students. However, laptops may pose a challenge to some students with regard to the ease of use, especially in the poor countries. Now, if you are not being exposed to using of the laptops in your previous age, that can make problems for you. Computer literacy has improved over recent years, but novel software could be problematic for some pupils. This can slacken or interrupt learning. Schools therefore are forced to employ extra tutors to eliminate the problem. So sometimes you cannot find those version of texts which are available in your textbooks. Rather, you have to stick to the pages rather than only solely using the laptops. So laptops the author clearly analyzes between the two different poles. The one is laptop, the use of laptop, and the other one is the use of this textbook in the school, and see how he is able to do that by providing the different kind of analysis in his essay. Now the writer draws the conclusion clearly in his essay by saying that recently the number of schools approving the usage of technologies substituting paper textbooks has increased. The complete replacement of school textbook with laptop seems destined to happen despite some conspicuous disadvantages such as harmful effect of light for students' eyes, high buying and maintenance cost, and sometimes additional expenses on teaching students computer literacy. So despite the fact that there are some disadvantages such as harmful effect of light on students' eyes, high buying, maintenance cost, and sometimes additional expenses on teaching students computer literacy, there is a trend that, and there is a hope that the textbooks will be replaced with the laptops in the schools. On the other hand, the initial high cost of purchasing laptops is neutralized by elimination of paper and paper costs. So the initial high cost of the purchasing laptops is neutralized by this paper elimination of paper from the school, and also reducing the printing costs. The use of laptops fosters constructivist approach to studying, which reduces the probability of students failing to complete their assignments. So the writer clearly analyzes in one statement that how it can be harmful for the students to use laptops in their classrooms. So see that how smartly the writer has analyzed the different aspects of using or replacing the school textbook with laptops by providing you with different ideas, by providing you the different disadvantages that why laptops can be harmful, and why how they are costly, and how the computer literacy is not very common, and especially the writer forgot to write about this energy issue in Pakistan, where this country is suffering with this energy issue, and if we start providing these laptops to our children in our schools, they are not going to be very useful and very helpful. Rather, they are going to increase our expenses, because we would have to provide the paper printing, as well as we would have to provide them the laptops in the classroom. So although writer provides all the good and bad reasons for using and not using laptops in the classroom, and has in a very great way analyzed by dividing his subtopic into his major topic into the different subcategories, he was able to draw his conclusion that use of laptops in the schools can be harmful for the students. Now let's try to see one example introduction paragraph for the thematic analysis essay. That one you can try to write down one. So here is another example that you can visit to see that how you can write one essay while following these kind of example of writing down one analysis essay. Now let's try to read it down. Empathy is a virtue that not all people have. To be able to understand other people's feelings, motives, or situation takes a lot of effort, since we live in such a judgmental society. Anne Frank, who was a young Jewish girl, went into hiding for 3 years trying to escape being killed by the Nazis during World War II. Under dire circumstances, Anne showed empathy in her many diary entries. Anne Frank. The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank shows that empathy can exist in horrific conditions. Thesis statement including my thematic statement. So the red line, the red sentences, the words which are written in red are the thematic statement being introduced by the author Anne Frank, and the ones in green are are my personal opinions, which I have drawn from after reading the paper of Anne Frank. So basically the introduction paragraph of any thematic analysis essay talks about the the example right in front of you talks about the empathy, which is being described in the author's words as well as mine. So this is how you can make your thematic statement or your problem statement before you actually start writing your analysis essay. We have visited one very good example of replacing school textbooks with laptops, and we have also discussed one good example of writing down the introduction paragraph with the help of thematic analysis. Now let's move on to the next slide and try to see that how we can work on this topic statement, that is economic crisis and the rate of unemployment. Now if we want to talk about it as a Pakistani, let's see that we are going to confine it and we are going to reduce it to our society only. So we are going to categorize it first of all. So before doing that, our topic statement or our thesis, our major topic is going to be related to our society, that is Pakistan. So particularly we have tried to narrow it down from our point of view, and we are going to see that how economic crisis can result in or how these two ideas of economic crisis and rate of unemployment are related. Now this is your major topic, that is economic crisis and rate of employment, rate of unemployment in Pakistan. Now if we try to write down the subcategories on which we would write down our analysis, is that first of all we would try to find out the economic crisis, the reasons for economic crisis, that each one of the reasons would be our subcategory, reasons of economic crisis. And then we are going to write down all those reasons which can be the causes of the economic crisis in our country. Then that was our subcategory number 1. Now if you talk about your subcategory number 2, that is your category that is going to talk about the rate of unemployment. That is rate of unemployment. So you would write down all those reasons under this heading, where you are going to talk about each of the reason or each of the finding that you are going to describe while saying that why these reasons of economic crisis are related to the rate of unemployment in our society. Now these all sub bullets or these all subcategories for which you are providing the reasons for should be supported with proper evidences. You should write down the proper quotes, and then you should provide the proper references for all of them. This is for this thing you are supposed to do with the both of them. Only in this possible way you can draw your conclusion as a whole. So your conclusion whatsoever you would be delivering would be becoming as a whole. So this is how you can practice writing one good analysis essay if you are in a process of writing one. I've given you 3 examples today as how to write down one good essay. Today's topic was to do with the analysis essay, in which we have learned that how you can differentiate between an expository essay and an analysis essay. An expository essay explains the reported information, however you try to find out the implications of the reported information and that why it happened and how it happened in your analysis essay. So your analysis essay in short is the examination of the whole thing of major subject by dividing that subject into the different subcategories and then examining each and every category to make it as a whole. So this is how you can analyze one good essay. To recap, or to give you the summary of what we have done today, we have thoroughly talked about that what are analysis essays. We have discussed the purposes of writing down the analysis essays. Analysis essays can be worked on any other piece of literature like poem, like poetry, like novel, drama or anything. Then we have thoroughly discussed that how to write an analysis essay, well-written analysis essay, and then we also discussed that how to analyze an essay itself. So I've given you one example of that also. Otherwise we have discussed all those things that we do for every other essay, like steps, like do's and don'ts, like common mistakes, and like topic selection. Today I have given you 3 examples of how to write one analysis essay, and I hope that after today you will be able to, after today's lecture, you would be able to write down one good analysis essay. These are some of the references from where the information was being downloaded and from where the information was being taken. Otherwise, some of the things have been added by myself only, and there is no issue of plagiarism in that. So that was all about today. I hope that there would not be any problem for you to write down one good analysis essay once you pick up your pens for writing down one. So with that, if you stick to all the rules and regulations and all the points that I have mentioned in my today's lecture to write down one good analysis essay, you can write down one very easily on your own. With that, I wish you a very good luck for writing another type of essay, and I'll see you with another interesting type of essay, that is personal writing, in your next class. Till then, take very good care of yourself. Allah Hafiz.